GM Cardano, I'm Lloyd Duhan. It is the 2nd of October 2023. Here are your top stories. Welcome to our full coverage of the NFTxLV conference in Las Vegas. Melanie attended a roundtable discussion featuring several figures from the Cardano space. Melanie, how did it go?
GM Lloyd. A panel convened at the NFTxLV conference to discuss the future of tokenization across various sectors. Speakers from NEWM, Wimsy, and Zengate joined Charles Hoskinson of IOG and shared how they are using crypto tokens to bring assets like music royalties, real estate, and commodities on-chain. Here's Charles.
One of the areas we're very interested in actually establishing some foundational results is tokenomics. So there's actually a very interesting game theory legacy in tokenomics. It's generally speaking, the field that tokenomics encumbers is some intersection of a field of game theory called mechanism design and also financial engineering and also basic economics. So mechanism design is also known as reverse game theory. So in game theory, normally you start with a game and you ask yourself, what is the outcome of this game going to be for rational people? With mechanism design, you go the opposite direction. You say, what is the outcome you want? And then how do I build a game to create that outcome? So when you think about tokenomics, what you're trying to do is create some sort of outcome. And cryptocurrency is the first outcome we wanted to create, is somebody to run a decentralized system, and that system over time to become more valuable and more secure.
Later, Charles asks Ryan, what have you learned? Where have you run into trouble? To which he replied,
part of our equation when we're having to deal with tokenized music IP, things are great as long as you don't leave the chain. But as soon as you leave the blockchain and go into the real world, what happens? And I think that's a problem that any RealFi project is trying to tackle. They're going to have to handle that in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so for us, it's how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And you can't change everything at one time. And I think you were a great example of this. We know where we want to get to, but you don't just get there. You have to meet everybody where we currently are and work within the confines that you are given in the current moment in time in which we are. We are focusing on the industry, things they know already, and we actually started with streaming royalties because it has the least perceived value to the general populace and musicians, and it has the least middlemen to actually have to work with to actually get on-chain and off-chain connectivity. What's the first step is the most important part in that equation. And for us, that was it. And so what we found out is that our first product is distribution. And so what that actually does is you are taking and you're controlling the money flow on chain. And so when you do that, it gives you that control of where you can actually manage this effectively. It means we take care of the plumbing before anything is produced, not retroactively after the fact.
According to Eddie of Wimsy, which uses tokens to manage real estate ownership,
becomes much more simpler with tokenomics. You don't have to chase anybody down. You know where it is. You know where their wallet is. You have their digital ID or their KYC, because we will be, through our broker-dealer, we will be totally compliant with FINRA and SEC. So to a certain degree, these are security tokens. So by being this compliant and being able to register everything completely within the US, you get all the benefits of being able to track who owns, being able to see how you can buy and sell, and also even on your taxes with the IRS. I will not mess with the IRS. You shouldn't mess with the IRS. They will have all that information, and you also get to benefit from appreciation and depreciation, all because we are able to tokenize these properties.
Next, Dan Friedman of Zengate shared how tokenomics affect tracking real-world commodities.
Our tokenomics, and I guess the UX around it, is really all about access options and abstraction of the Web3 experience so that you can bring in more of the mainstream in. On the holder side, you have vehicles such as incentives to hold, right? You have a rebate function. You have a treasury that encourages business development, for example. We have that. We have an incentive structures for oracles, because you do have to do a lot of on-off-chain data validation when you are dealing with commodities, especially with soft commodities. So there has to be an incentive structure in place for this data to be clean and to persuade all the producers and all the actors in the system to kind of strive for the best, right? To give them to give them a reason to give you clean data, to give them the reason to provide this information. And the reason simply is access. And so what I've learned, well, from working with you, for example, in emerging economies, and then, of course, with my work with Zengate, emerging economies suffer from lack of access.
The panelists were optimistic that tokenization could slowly revolutionize niche sectors first, then expand once value is proven. But work remains to bridge the on-chain and off-chain worlds. For GM Cardano, I'm Melanie Duhan.
Thanks, Melanie. Now that NFTxLV has come to a close, we'll spend the week sharing important highlights and interviews. I spent a few minutes chatting with so many of our community members. Here's a chat with Michael Madoff regarding Voltaire.
So I would say there are three things that the Cardano community needs to know about Voltaire.
I'll give that one to you. Go ahead.
So three pillars of Voltaire are institutions like Intersect, constitutional representation through the Cardano Constitution, and democratic consent through SIP 1694. And so you need all three of these pieces together to make Cardano governance work seamlessly.
If you have an important story that the Cardano community needs to hear, please use the GM Cardano tip line, gmctips@gmcardano.com, or send us a DM on X to our handle GM_Cardano. For links to the above stories, please check our show notes. GM Cardano is your go-to resource for the latest news from the Cardano blockchain. Your support helps us grow. Please like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. GM Cardano.